everyone, welcome to Distinguished Diva. This is Adiola Naomi, and this is the February episode of Life According to an Nigerian Woman. I made a consistent let's root for Adiola. I have to be my biggest hype woman, not hype man, hype woman, cheerleader, or whatever you call it. So this episode, we're talking about something very, very important and something people keep throwing around. And I said it, as I said it last month, that I don't want to talk about issues that I need to edit myself anymore. I want to talk about the truth. I want to be authentic with you guys. I want to tell you the truth, my truth at least, because that's what this series are set up to do. So anyway, we're talking about safe spaces. So I was at a conference today, and it was a beautiful conference organized by 3 incredible Black women, feminists, businesswomen, creatives, just doing the best things out there. Like, they're go-getter, they're doers, they do stuff. They're not just gonna talk and talk and talk. They're not like, you know, there is some people in our community, because I feel like this year I need to tackle a lot of issues around our community, because there's a lot of things going on, and I feel like as a Black community we can never progress, and even as a POC or marginalized or whatever you choose to call it, we can never move forward if we don't look home and look at what is going on and how to fix that. And kind of, we keep looking at the oppressive system of white supremacy and want to fix that, or we keep fighting it, but I feel like we can never win this battle if we're not honest with ourselves as a community, and if we're not looking inside, whether that's the LGBTQ community, whether that's the marginalized POC community, whatever community it is. If you're not honest with yourself, you can never be unified, and you can never build that kind of platform that will be impactful to fight the oppressive, patriarchal, capitalist, white supremacist community that we do live in 2018. Well, I do. So anyway, what I realize is we keep throwing the word safe space. I kind of understand why we need to say we're creating a safe space for ourselves, but I also really, every time somebody says safe space, my face goes. And today there was actually something said at the conference, and literally my face and my mouth sometimes are they act on themselves, they have a mind of themselves, I don't know, like they do have their own opinions. So this person said something and I was like, ah, and everybody in the room was like, exactly that reaction. Or sometimes when people say we are creating safe space, I feel like we don't look at the nuances of who is the safe space made of, and what is safe space. I feel like when you say safe space, how safe is it really? What does it mean safe? Who is it safe for? And can it really be safe? Let's just be nuanced. Let's just be realistic. Let's just look at things clearly and correctly. Like, can this actually be safe? I really am a believer that there is no such thing as safe spaces. Like, there are respectful spaces, there are queer spaces, there are left-wing spaces, there are spaces where you all kind of have the same kind of ethos and principles. Yes, they do exist, but in the terms of safe, where you know that 100% everybody in this room is safe, I personally believe that do not exist, that will never exist, because first of all, we're not honest with ourselves. First of all, so this place was called a safe space, but there is no a wheelchair, it's not wheelchair accessible, number one. And number two, the conference is a paid conference, which of course I get it, we live in a capitalist world, you need to pay people and stuff. It's a paid conference, so that shut the door to working class people who would love to be there. And most of the people on the panels are people who are from academia, or people who have gone to uni one way or the other. So that means also that you kind of look intellectually to people who could, or whether working class who have in uni, or middle class people. Yes, it was mostly predominantly Black people, and of course whenever there are this kind of spaces and beautiful conferences on feminism or Black feminism or creating community building and grassroots activism, it's always Black women. And it's not just in these spaces, it's every space. I feel like when we talk about activism, it's mostly women who I see personally in the spaces that I navigate. Of course that can be different for you. So what I realize is there is no safe space because there can't be safe space, but there can be other spaces. We can call these things respectful spaces, because if you see the nuances, I can be at that conference today and spend my whole day there, but maybe there's someone who would love to be there, but it's not really up to them because they need to get to work and get some money and get food on the table and get things done. Or the conversation we're having is not accessible in terms of vocabulary, in terms of experiences to these people, and also even the people in that room. I remember there was a workshop that was done and somebody was like, oh, introduce yourself and your pronouns. And this woman was like, what does that mean? And I totally get it. Like, personally, when I go into a room, I said my name, Adiola, she, her. That's my pronoun. That's how I want you to refer to me. And I'm used to that. But that's also because I'm coming from a different experience and background where I work in gender. I know stuff around gender equality, queerness. I am a queer Black woman, and I know all of that. And my politics are queer. So I think I wasn't born with all of this. All of these are things I acquired in my life experiences, things I learned, things I heard, things I'm still learning, see? So how can it be safe if there are people who don't even understand why we need this lingual coding and why we need these terms and what these terms are? And I had to explain to her, like, oh, it's just to not misgender anybody and to be able to kind of call everybody the way they identify. So for example, if you identify as a gender you have been assigned, then you are she, her, and there might be people who are they, blah blah blah. And I felt very happy that I could do that, but I also felt that I challenged myself a bit, like, is it really safe though? If she can't understand it, is it safe? But we also have the same way. If a queer person or a person who identify as other or as anything else, as they, as whatever, was in that room, we tend to get offended or be like, but why didn't she get it? And I'm just like, were you born knowing all the things that you know today? No, none of us were born with a manual in this life and be like, oh, so you're born, so you know this, you know that, you know feminism, you know left-wing policies, you know Pan-Africanism movement, you know the civil rights movement in the United States, in the past colonial countries, you know, third wave feminism, you know all of that. Like, nobody among us is born knowing everything. And for us to have safe spaces, it has to happen like that, that we are coming from the same social class. We always forget that. Like, I said something today, somebody was asking, like, how can we find mentors? And I opened my big mouth and I said, like, oh, if you're in universities, you can find mentors from your professors. Those are amazing opportunities. Get used to them and get engaged. Even if you're at university, don't just go for the classes. Also go to the social activities happening in the university, do residencies, do fellowship. Those are incredible opportunities, and those are great places to find mentors. And I have found the best mentors from those spaces. But another person said, and I was so ashamed of myself because I really need to call myself out a lot of time, and another person said, those are great, but those are very professional spaces and academic spaces, and not all of us have access to that space. And that was like, makes sense. I think and assume that everybody have accessibility to all the spaces. I think everybody could take a month away from their life and do a fellowship. I think everybody could take a year away from their life and volunteer or internship for free. And those are very, very small things that we don't think about in the spaces that I personally navigate, that we call safe spaces. Like, I live in a bubble of safety most of the time. Like, there are times I'm like, I can't deal with you not knowing all of these terms and this and this. And I just like, Adiola, calm down. Adiola, not everybody is born with a manual or with the collective social capital, financial capital, economic capital, like all of mental capacity to understand. And it's not calling people stupid, it's not calling people, it's not shaming people, it's just knowing that not everybody comes and have the same abilities and have the same oppressions and have the same disadvantages and have the same advantages and have the same privileges. And this is such a word that we find it very problematic to say, and I don't know why. Like, we all have very different privileges, and that's fine, and it's absolutely fine. Like Audre Lorde says, and also Angela Davis says, that we have to look past our differences and learn from our differences and use those differences to build things that will last, to collaborate, to collectively come with an ethos of love and work together. And we cannot do that if we keep pretending that things are safe, if we keep pretending that this is a safe space. I will never ever promise someone when they come to my house or my events or my whatever I organize that this is a safe space. No. But there is one thing I can promise you, that this will be a respectful spaces. There will be house rules. There will be rules like this is what you get to say to people, and you have to respect people. So I can promise, and I feel like anybody who organize, any grassroots organizer, community organizer can promise you, if they try, a place of respect. And respect is a human right thing, in my opinion. I feel like everybody deserves to be respected and to respect the other person, respect their humanity, and nurture and love that humanity in them. That's all you can promise. So I feel like we should stop saying safe spaces, and I need to also stop assuming that in spaces that I move, especially, that everybody have the same kind of capacity. Like, I'm not naive, I know, but sometimes you just make some suggestions. Like, I'm very, very aware of the things that intersections of things that might just get in the way of our life experiences and how we know things. And I'm very, 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 very aware, but it still like baffles me that, as aware as I am, sometimes I suggest things and people just look at me like, what? And I'm like, yeah, you were right to say that. You were right to look at me like that. And you were right to do that. Like, sometimes people don't call me out, but I call myself out, because it's not about wanting to shame myself, but it's more about accountability. I feel like we need to be accountable in our community for us to fight any sort of oppressive system. We need to first of all be accountable and know that these are the things that we can deliver. Yeah, you cannot, people need to stop over promising. No, I would love if you over deliver than you over promise. Don't promise something you can't do. Like, this is one of my pet peeve, one of the things that freak me out, one of the things that make me just say, I'm done with you, when people over promise. If you can't do something, don't promise it. But if you promise something and you actually do more than that, I will really appreciate you. And there's just one thing that I'm gonna finish with that I read that really captivate my soul and really make me realize that yes, this is possible. So it's like, the alternative to safe spaces is brave spaces. Instead of safe space, in a brave space, we need to emphasize courage and not promise a comfort that we cannot provide. And one of the TED Talk that I'm going to link in this video is a TED Talk of Lovia Ajayi that said we need to start getting uncomfortable. And I feel like safe spaces takes away from that. It makes you feel so chill and like, oh, you're hurting my feelings. And especially when you're in a place like a white woman will tell you things in a Black Lives Matter conference, and she'll be like, yeah, blah, 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 and start talking about anti-racism movement, and she's a white woman, and you're just looking like, how are you telling me all of this? These are my experiences, especially white women who are like in anti-racist movement. Even we can see that from last year in France, the anti-racist movement was like racist. And you promise people safe spaces. Like, you can't promise safe space because the experiences are different. I don't mean like white people cannot work in anti-racist movement. You can't. But stop promising safe spaces because they aren't safe. Promise brave spaces. Let people get uncomfortable. Let people start understanding that your feelings are not, like, your feelings are valid. Of course they're valid, but it's not about your feelings right now. It's not about you. Like, if I'm talking about experience of race, I have been called and told so many times that racism is really in my head and race does not exist. And if anybody else ever tell me that racism doesn't exist and race is not a concept that exists, I do know this. This is like, I know, but the experience that I live, the lived experience of so many other Black buddies says differently. So we need to start calling those who create that system out. But no, my experience is an illusion. Like, my experiences are not an illusion, and you need to understand that, and we all need to understand that. And I think with this, I say thank you for watching this, and please let me know if you believe in safe spaces or brave spaces. Let's get uncomfortable. Let's bruise each other a little bit. Let's say the truth to each other, like tell each other the truth once in a while. It's fine. That's the only way we can grow. Let me know how you think, and catch you next month in another episode of Life According to a Nigerian Cook Woman. And I think I'll be talking about something also that will bruise my own ego, because you know, we're also egoistic and stuff like, oh, I work in gender, I'm in academic, and I know everything. Nobody knows everything, and we're all learning, and that's fine. Thank you.